Just curious, so can you tell me the process? Like, who drew these maps? Where'd they come from?
My understanding is the same as what the public comments have been, that this map came from the governor's office and was written at the governor's direction by his staff.
So his staff drew the maps?
That is my understanding, at the governor's direction.
And then I guess he asked you to carry the bill? You
No,
didn't have any say in the maps?
The governor did not ask me to carry his bill. I don't pretend. In fact, I'd be just flabbergasted if you closely watch my social media.
I do not.
And that's what I expected, and I don't blame you. But if you had, and if you go back and look, weeks before the governor called the extraordinary, I asked for him to do that. And I'm not suggesting that he just did it because I asked him to in that form. But again, I voted for a different map in 2022. I've continued to support it when it seemed like there was a groundswell and maybe support to do that and consensus building. I made that clear that I hope that would be true.
And I guess I'm not sure what's happened in our state or what data we have that has pressed us to do this rather than waiting another 4 years for the next census, which would be following what our Constitution mandates us to do.
I think a lot of things has changed. I mean, for as many different members are here, and 23
what data do you have that shows there's been significant change to require redistricting?
Well, the composition of this body has significantly changed. I mean, you look around.
Composition of this body changes every 2 years. That's irrelevant.
Well, no, it's a data point because we've,
it's not a data point because of term limits. Right? This body will always change because we have term limits. So that doesn't necessarily reflect a change in the voting patterns of people.
But
it
the point
reflects
is,
the fact that people are not here.
All of the majority members that are here now that weren't here in 2022, they might well have been with me.
They might have.
They might have, but they weren't here, but they're now here now. And so a past General Assembly cannot bind the hands of a future General Assembly. Which is
right,
why we're able to
we should be doing this in 4 years, not today.
Well, that's your
Thank
opinion.
you for your inquiry. That's the Constitution's opinion and the opinion of the majority
I
of
reject
Missourians,
that.
as noted by the testimony that's been received. To speak on the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
So everybody in this body knows that redistricting is supposed to happen every 10 years. We can pretend like that's not the case, but you all know it's the case. At that point, we actually have real data to reflect changes in population, not changes in who sits in this chamber, which is completely irrelevant in my opinion. That's fairness. That's in our Constitution. And most importantly, that's the deal we make with the people that we serve. Representation should be based on facts, not political convenience. When maps are redrawn outside that cycle, with no new data, no census, and no legitimate reason, it's not representation, it's not fairness, it's blatant manipulation. It is nothing more than a naked power grab, and it's elected officials choosing their voters rather than letting voters choose their representatives. And let's be honest about who pays the price, because there is a price. Gerrymandering almost always targets marginalized communities. By gerrymandering, we dilute the voting power of communities of color, of low-income families, and the younger people in our state. These are the very communities that most need their government to listen to their needs. But in this body, we don't want to hear what their thoughts are. Instead, their representation is carved up to protect incumbency or partisan gain. Entire communities are being locked out of the process that is supposed to include them. And the consequences are real. Fewer resources for our schools, which in a state that barely funds our schools is really, really frightening. Gaps in healthcare. For people in rural Missouri that don't even have hospitals and can't reasonably reach medical care within a short drive, that should be a very big concern of you. And affordable housing initiatives are stalled, which in my area is a big concern of mine. When we silence voters, we strip the communities of the resources and the policies that they need. We cannot claim to serve the people while bending the rules to serve ourselves. When we redraw maps outside of the census, when we silence communities for political gain, we undermine democracy itself. And this body should not tolerate that. If you vote for this, you are saying the rules don't matter, that power matters more than fairness, and some votes are worth more than others. That's not democracy. That's discrimination that's hiding behind a map. And let's not sugarcoat what this really is. This is nothing more than the Republican Party pandering to Donald Trump and his agenda. We all heard the directive. We're not stupid over here. We know where this came from. And it's not the governor's office. This isn't policy making. This is cowardice. Instead of listening to the people we represent, you are twisting the process to protect Trump's grip on power and tip the scales in his favor. Everyone in this chamber took an oath to represent our constituents, not to represent Donald Trump. We don't have a party boss. We're not supposed to be doing this for our own reelection campaigns. If you care about the integrity of this chamber, if you care about fairness, if you care about your constituents, then you need to reject gerrymandering and stand up for fair and transparent maps. Because if you support this bill, that is a betrayal of the people that you serve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.